Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another Beyond All Reason replay analysis. I'm your host, Ziteo, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. So, Pessimistic Snake has submitted this replay and asked if Ayin wanted to get it reviewed as well. So I'm going to be definitely doing both of their perspectives. But then NuttyWombat's also expressed some interest in some review. So I'm basically going to take this one as a whole instead of looking at one individual player and focusing on their vision and all that. I'm instead going to have, the vision like wide open. I'm going to try to look at the game as a whole, while also trying to look at and talk about some of the smaller details like in economy and unit movement and all that. Um, Now I'm not particularly versed in Theta Crystals, so it's entirely possible I make some bad calls, but I'll just, I'll try to point out what I see and, what can be done maybe a little bit differently. Anywho, let's get into it. So we have Snake Von Pess, who is also known as Pessimistic Snake on Discord. Spawned here as our teal player. We got Ayin as our blue player at the top here. And then on the other team, we have NuttyWombat. So right here, I'm going to pause really quick and just notes that, generally you want to try to greed for all three mexes as soon as possible. That'll just get you some extra metal income. I believe, yeah, so it looks like Pessimistic Snake is doing that, getting all three mexes, and Ayin, looks like Ayin is getting just the two and then the third after building up the energy. So the reason why you want to do this is because in bar, metal is the hardest thing to get. Like energy, you can just like plop down wherever, whereas metal, it's like you have to go out and find the nodes and build on them, and you got to defend them and all that, and it becomes basically the limiting factor pretty early on. So with that in mind, having this max a little bit sooner is going to get you that extra income sooner, so you can benefit from it and just have that bit of extra metal to work with. So we'll see how that plays out a little bit here after a moment. Oh, I should point out really quickly. So the way you want to do that, if you're going to start with the solar as your first energy building, you can grab all three mexes and then put down the solar. If you're going to go for for wind economy, you want to grab two mexes, put down one turbine, grab your third mex, and then the rest of your energy. And that'll just get you a little bit more metal to work with. Now, if you're going to build a solar, like eventually, then you want to get the solar first so that you can get those three mexes right away. So it's a bit of a rearrangement just to get that going a little bit faster. Even with these two wind turbines, you're a little bit low because the wind is so low here, but you got it up okay here, Mr. NuttyWombat. But yeah, like I was just saying, if you're gonna get that solar anyways, or maybe you didn't plan to, but if you plan to, you could have gotten all three mexes first. Let's see, so labs are coming down now. Notice that Snake has gone for the two solar opener, whereas these other players have only gone for one, at least so far. On this map, at 0 to 16 with an average of 12, it's fine to have like, up to 2. I wouldn't really suggest more than that, just so that you don't spend too much metal on those solars. It takes a long time, or those solars are very inefficient when it comes to metal cost. Wind is going to be much better on a map like this eventually. But yeah, wind can dip low and it's not terribly high for max, so having a few solar is a good idea here as well. Let's see, NuttyWombat doing some scouting. Lots of ticks out here. And doing some scouting with some grunts as Ayin has opened bot lab, or core bot lab, I should say. No ticks allowed. And yeah, it looks like Snake is doing a nice job just going for those extra mexes right away. I'd say, yeah, that's very important to do, is to, get the mexes ASAP. So already a fourth mex going to be finished here for Snake. Meanwhile, these other players still on 3 mexes. Actually, it looks like NuttyWombat's getting a 4th now as well. But Ayin's a little bit further behind with that. This tower placement, by the way, not the best. I mean, it's more or less just a layout issue. Like the tower itself is in an okay position, but the fact that it's behind these wind turbines here, means that it's basically automatically blocked. So it only really has a firing angle of like from there to there. It has like 180 degrees instead of 360. So ideally, you'd want to put these wind turbines like maybe like up here or something. Try to plan for where the tower is going to go. While you're putting down those wind turbines. In fact, it gets blocked here as well. So I don't know. It's a weird angle. It's just not going to cover all that much. But yeah, it looks like Ayin's grunts are moving out. Gonna meet some resistance here in a moment. It looks like Ayin's opponent here has decided to go for boosting out a lot of grunts instead of moving out. So this is something that's might come into play in a little bit. This is something that I've been watching a lot myself, because I'll tend to do things closer to what Ayin does and instead like go pretty heavy on the greed early on, but then I won't have very many units out. And looking at that from the opposite side is Yellow here, who has a lot of units out but not very much economy. So Ayin's in a better position like eventually, but for the moments, this is kind of a lot of grunts compared to what Ayin has. Especially since Ayin is using these grunts as scouts. These scouts, when they're so spread out, they can't like assist each other in combat and stuff. So it's really hard to get value in trades. The value, of course, is in the scouting itself. But losing those units now means that Yellow is in a much better position in terms of units to be able to control the points of interest on this map. So let's talk about that a little bit too right now, before this gets too much further. So obviously on any map, you want to look for the clear choke points. The points where it's easier to hold, and ideally in a forward position or at the very least in the center of the map, so that you can protect all the mexes that you have behind it. The whole idea, of course, is set up a line in the fronts to protect everything that you have behind it. So on this map, that area is here for this side. And notes that up here, there really isn't that many mexes to grab. There's only this one here. It is a 2.4, so it's a little bit bigger. But regardless, there's not a lot of mexes in the middle that you actually fight for. Now, of course, obviously from the hill here, you can push down it and attack these mexes down here. So there is some value in that. But generally speaking, a lot of the map, or a lot of the gameplay on this map for this position is just holding this position to protect your own mexes. Because obviously if you run down there, you can maybe take the mexes, but at the same time you'll probably lose some units, and that means just wrecks for them, and it gets complicated. But basically you could feed them by accident type of thing. Now in this other position, the position that Snake is playing in, his opponent is Freshy. Let's see. Let's take a look at the same thing in terms of like pushing out and stuff. So the commander from Snake is still at base. Snake is doing a good job having something out here to grab the mexes. Meanwhile, his opponent is pushed out a little bit further. Already his commander is like closer to this point here, whereas on the opposite side, that same point is here. So Snake has not pushed out yet. And so, Freshian is a better position to control this whole area. And let's see, does not have a constructor out here grabbing other mexes. So it's just done a little bit differently. Snake going for more of an economic opener, whereas Freshy here has gone for more of a let's build some solar really quick and then push out really quick and control the space. Now in this position, down here, in contrast to the hill on the other side, there's a lot of mexes to fight for. And this is kind of a big deal. The natural chokes are here and down here. So if you're able to get your commander start positioning some like defenses, like from Freshy's perspective, if Freshy puts down some towers here, now all of a sudden all these mexes down here belong to him. You know, and that's kind of a lot of mexes. So like it's kind of a big deal in this position to get to that, to get to that position to try to do that. Now, obviously, you're probably more or less going to be fighting in the middle mostly because it's kind of far away to get all the way up here to defend this, and it's a wide enough area that there's still potential to run around it early on, before too many units get there to defend it. So, um, but yeah, overall in this position, Freshian is in a better spot to control that, where Snake is in a better spot to control or to have the economy to push it out. So just to like put that as a contrast, personally, I like this kind of position a little bit better. Getting the economy going to be able to push it out, but we'll see how it plays out. Hammerhead here doing a nice job getting to the front pretty early on this side. Again, this is not as important, but it's easier to defend on this hill for sure. It's hard to push up it, so like it's still good to get up there pretty fast. It's just not going to get you any like economic benefit. It's more like a push potential benefit. You have the potential then to go down the hill to deny these mexes. Oh, I missed it a little bit. I think these rascals went after this constructor, it looks like, and then these guys probably responded. Looks like a reasonable response from Snake here. Let's see what else is going on. Air units flying around, so we should probably mention what the differences between these two players are too, because that kind of plays a big factor. So red here has gone for vehicle, meanwhile green has gone for air. So this is just a different way to play on this map. So already looking at this, like, we can say that there's going to be, some sizable differences. Obviously red has some ground units, can help push aside if necessary. So what could happen is red and pink double up on this area, and this is an important area to double up on. Meanwhile, Snake, you're not going to have the same support. You will have air support, and stuff like that with shurikens and whatnot since they're Cortex. So that's going to help out. And the main benefit of doing this kind of play instead is now, the air player can grab these upper mexes. They can grab this one up here, they can grab this one here. Also note that there's these ones in the middle. So this is a lot of mexes that they could potentially grab to give your team more metal income overall. There's also this one back here, by the way, this 3.0. One of the things I forgot to mention is just, the size of the mexes. All the mexes except for some of the middle ones are 8.8 or 1.8, whereas up here there's a 3.0 and there's a 2.0 here, or I'm sorry, 2.4 there, and then all the ones on the hills are 2.4. And then on the other side, there's a 2.4 here, accessible by vehicles and bots. Same with this 3.0 in the middle. And then yeah, the upper area is 2.4 for these cliffs. So those cliffs are kind of a big deal. And if none of these players go air, now all of a sudden all these 2.4 mexes on these hills are lost, and they're just not going to have it. But they make up for it with just having more ground units. So we'll just see how that compares or how that goes. So yeah, Hammer here setting up some nice light laser towers on the hill. Ayan's, he's further back. He's taking a minute to get up here, building on some mexes as he can. But here's all those units I was talking about. So Cheppy here, yellow, has a lot of grunts out here that he pushed out with his commander, and now is threatening this position. And notice, this is a reasonable tactic because this is a very wide open area. There's really not much potential for Ayin to be able to push into this position yet, and there's only so much that Hammerhead can do here. Hammerhead is more concerned with their own side of the hill and putting up towers to help defend it. So there's not really that much they can do here. This is just such a wide open area for one person. So yeah, yellow and orange slipped some units out here. And so yellow has the potential to go around the commander and do some economic damage here. But again, yellow is further behind on metal, because of them pushing out all these grunts instead of taking the mexes. So yeah, their metal income right now is only 9, whereas Ayin, you have, well, that's obviously with reclaim of some sort. Let's unpause for a second. Okay, so you have 13. You know, so that's a significant chunk more. You know, so eventually you can field more units than they can, but you're probably going to take some damage or lose more position for it. You know, which isn't a huge deal, but again, this hill, because it's a hill, you know, means that it's a good defensive position. And if Hammerhead can't hold it alone before you get there, you know, it's going to be a bit of trouble. Oh, okay, I missed it. Apparently, okay, so sorry, Snake apparently got in here with a rover or something, or a couple of rovers, and did some economic damage to Pink as well. So Freshie is kind of hurting here, only on 8 income at the moment. You know, hasn't quite rebuilt these yet, these mexes. You know, and also they don't have these forward mexes yet, or these, you know, mexes off to the side. They just have a nice position with their commander, and now Snake has kind of made up some ground, and so now this middle spot is contested properly. So this is well done by Snake, getting, you know, into that position. Meanwhile, even having some more units to make a follow-up play here in the base. So we'll see how that raiding party goes. But yeah, meanwhile, you have some nice mechs like growth here. You know, you got all these mexes. I guess pushed up your commander, or I guess maybe not. But I was gonna say maybe I think your commander maybe went that way and the constructor bot went this way. But you know, that would be like the logical thing in most cases. But I don't know. The constructor's here, so I'm not 100% sure how it went down. I guess you skip this one with your commander, so you get up closer faster, which makes plenty of sense. So you can contest that middle. But either way, you have all the mexes here. Well, almost. I believe you're probably going to get that one afterwards. You know, so quite ahead of your opponent, Pink, here, especially after that economic damage. You know, only 8 metal income for Pink, and Snake, you have 11. And, you know, there'll be more after this mex is done and that mex is done. But the point is, like, you're in a better position to grow economically. Now, these units here, like, you know, doing any kind of raid essentially is trading those units that you're raiding for economic damage or potential economic damage. You know, and considering you just did some damage, you know, it's kind of reasonable to think like, well, I know that they're not very well defended. Let's just send some more units in and, you know, deal even more damage. That's a very reasonable thing to do. We'll see how it plays out, but you know, I guess my point is, if they don't do that much damage, or even if they do damage, you know, you're essentially suiciding these units so you don't have them anymore, and you know, in a lot of cases they leave at least some wreck behind to get reclaimed. So you know, just notes that it's going to be giving them a little bit of metal for position and stuff like that. So and since the commander's out here, like the commander's not going to run all the way back to base, you know, so this position is still going to remain afterwards. It's not like it's a bunch of units that are going to like chase after these units and then allow your commander to make a play. So it doesn't have that kind of value in this particular case. Let's see. Okay, so here on Ayin's side, looks like you lost the mechs here. Not a big deal, you know. Let's see how this plays out. Okay, this is nice. This is some nice backward cutting. You know, essentially, you know, what Ayin's trying to do here is have as many of his units fighting as few of his of yellows. And in this particular case, it's 1 grunt to 1 grunts. But that is a much better trade than fighting all these grunts at once. You know, so this is actually being handled very reasonably, very well. Because fighting, you know, these grunts versus these grunts, it's sort of like there's going to be losses on both sides, but with cutting back like this and trying to do as much as you can like that, you can get more value. And especially with these shurikens here. These shurikens here are going to allow for some excellent value, picking off some free grunts. And now it's all these grunts against those 3. And yeah, Ayin just picks them all off. So very well done there as a team effort to pick all those off. There's some, you know, some reclaim there. And by the way, I'm using this like battle tracker widget that shows these numbers. These numbers basically just represent how much metal was gained or lost through that, you know, through that fight, basically. Through this, you know, it makes like a ring around here and says, okay, how many units did you lose and how many units did they lose? And it adds together, a positive value for everything that you kill and a negative value for everything that you lost. So in this case, you got out ahead by 238 metal. And I shouldn't say unit counts. It's like, it sums up the cost of the units. And it does not include the wrecks. So all these wrecks are just bonuses. So that went so well for you. But unfortunately, you're out of position now. All your grunts are back here. And this is going to allow, yellow's in a good position here to just kind of push the hill on this side. Wombat's doing a reasonable job just setting up some containments towers so that units can't just run through. And even has some rocket bots back here to deny these towers on the hill. So this is actually a really good play here from NuttyWombat. Ideally, you have these pawns and grunts and stuff running around for raids and stuff, and they're great at that. But when it comes to actual combat, they're not going to do jack shit, unless you have like a massive amount of them or something like that. So in a way, all these grunts, although very useful for dealing with the raid that was going on, are not going to be terribly useful against these towers. They're not going to be terribly useful against these rocket bots. And so, this is kind of a rough position, especially since Hammerhead here is also on pawns. So it's just pawns and towers, which are very easily deconstructed with these rocket bots. I would say in this position, you guys might want to consider, switching into like thugs, do plasma bots, maybe some rockets, but I would mainly go plasma bots because of the hill, because plasma fires further if it's on, if it's firing downward, they'll just like shoot further. So lots of good value on this hill for plasma bots. In fact, plasma bots up here could probably gun down these sentry towers without taking damage. Don't quote me on that, but that's I think that's how it works in this kind of position. I should probably mention a little bit really quickly too. So I'm gonna hit Alt V, and that shows these hitboxes and a bunch of information. Now, obviously, you're not gonna do this during the game, but I guess just so I point this out to you, each unit has this purple dot. This purple dot is where enemy units will try to attack, and if they can't see the dots, or if their weapon can't doesn't have like a clear shot at that dot, they will not attack it. So note for these towers, the dot is actually quite low compared to how tall the tower is. And then this red dot here, it's kind of hard to see. It's like in the barrel of the gun. The red dot, on this pawn, it's like right here. That red dot is where the projectile comes out of the unit. So for towers like this, there's a sizable, height difference here. So what you can actually do is like position your towers like slightly lower in elevation and have the turrets still fire above. So if these towers, excuse me, if these towers were, just a little bit lower in elevation, they could probably still shoot over the hill while not being able to be attacked. So if these were just a little bit further behind, it'd be much harder for rocket bots to actually shoot it. But yeah, just a little quirky thing. I'm not 100% sure if it works like that on this map. Just don't know if the hill is steep enough. But it's something to maybe just think about. Let's see what else is going on. Yeah, so unfortunately these grunts are not going to be terribly useful at this point. Yeah, this commander really needs to get to the front now that there's this yellow commander here. By the way, I don't think I see a radar around, unfortunately. So I don't even, let's actually look at the player view. Player view? Is this, okay, so yeah, that is the proper player view. So I guess you do see these guys because you guys have the, you're on that side of the hill. But yeah, radar are pretty good. It's good to be able to know like what's sitting back here. For all you know, it could be like a bunch of grunts, and just being able to know that there isn't anything there is a good peace of mind. And then if something is there, if it's like a lot of dots, it's probably ticks or grunts, and then you can respond to that a little differently. Let's see, is there radar over here? No radar over here for Snake, unfortunately. Yeah, same thing here. You don't know what's going on. Radar is of course, very, 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 very important as you push into a new location. And so right here, Snake, all you see is this commander and this tower, and I guess this back tower too. Um, you know, you don't know what's beyond that. Now, obviously, there isn't really much here, but it'd be nice to know that for sure instead of, you know, kind of guessing at it. Because for all you know, there could be like a bunch of units here ready to be pushed up here. And then, you know, if there is, you can maybe respond to it by putting down a tower or something like that. Information, so important. I see that you have a Janus out. Janus Gaming. Unfortunately, you hit the hill with that shot. Commander's coming forward, deguns the tower there. Oh, that was a nice shot. Wait, red? Oh, you see a red tank. Okay, so yeah, this goes back to what I was saying before with, you know, red's going ground forces and green is going air. You know, so green, you know, should be trying to get all these mexes right away. Looks like they're doing a reasonable job getting that stuff, setting up a nice position with the anti-air and all that. Personally, I'm someone who would prefer to greed for some of the mexes here, like this. I feel like should definitely be taken or try to be taken soon. This is a nice position to have, but also knowing, you know, how you know, this position is kind of hard to hold this entire area at the moment. It'd be reasonable to start grabbing, you know, to try to grab this 3.0 as well if you're the air player or the back player. But yeah. Meanwhile, over here on this side, let's take a look. Hammerhead trying to do what they can. Ayin setting some back towers here. I suppose it's reasonable considering that yellow had the position here, but now that yellow is being pushed back by Hammerhead, you know, if you guys both were together on this, you could actually push him back pretty reasonably and just take this entire thing back for yourselves, which is what I think Hammerhead is trying to do here. Unfortunately, Ayin's playing a little bit more of a defensive style here, you know, which is reasonable if he was by himself, but considering purple is trying to also push up, I feel like you should just you know, cancel building this and try to assist him with that assault. Obviously the rocket bots stuff are coming out, so like, yeah, I guess like it's gonna be hard to hold that regardless. But given that, you know, these towers here are just not gonna do much. You know, because either A, you know, you're basically giving him the hill, which is, you know, fine, but once rockets and plasma bots come out, these towers will go down for free. So there's really no sense in having them. You know, unless you're just trying to prevent raids, but if you're trying to do that, you know, having them back here might be a little bit better. This is just like a weird spot where it's very easy for them to get pushed by rockets and plasma. Meanwhile, I apparently missed this, but yeah, Ayin still able to do some stuff with his grunts, was able to get past that front line there. So yeah, that's really good because obviously, like I was saying, these grunts are not very useful. You know, just sitting back, waiting for battle. They're useful for raiding, so this is good that they're able to be used that way. Freshly is taking a lot of Janus hits. Looks like Snake going for the kill, but unfortunately I don't. Oh, he's gonna get it. Yeah, okay, gets it. Lucky shot there. If you didn't get that, then you know, that'd be a lot of wasted metal. So we'll see who gets that wreck. I'll try to remember to go back there before it gets eaten. But yeah, here's the plasma bots coming into action here. And now, yeah, this entire position here is lost. Because rocket bots on this hill basically means you can't put anything around. And now there's another dead commander, unfortunately. And this one, I don't know, it looks like Wombat could potentially get a lot from this. There's a lot of units to defend it. I'm just going to check on the other side really quick. Snake. Okay, I mean, yeah. So you know, knowing that there's a dead comm here, I would want to consider going there, but you know, it's kind of rough with stuff that's already there. Like I wouldn't be placing towers here. I'd be moving my commander up and trying to place towers around here, or if I know that the enemy tower is here, I would try to swing around this way you know, place towers around to try to get to that wreck. You know, probably place my first one like here, and then like another one here. You know, and just like seeing what's around. Again, you don't have radar coverage to really know, so this is kind of rough. Oh, you do have radar coverage. Where's that coming from? I guess that's just from the commander. Can we not see the radar ring? Okay, apparently, whoops. Apparently we can't see your radar ring at the moment. But yeah, you must see these dots from the commander radar. It must be like just barely around here or something like that. But yeah, just, you know, trying to push forward. But again, you know, if you know that there's some units here, it's kind of hard to, and it's kind of risky. But yeah, this is kind of a big deal if you leave that for them, is the whole thing. You know, obviously the same thing with this mechs, or this, not mechs, this commander wreck. You know, none of your wombats in a good position, and it'd be very good for Ayin to try to degun that, but obviously that puts a lot of danger on his commander. It looks like he's going for it. He's going for something. Trying to dodge some shots. Alright. Okay, he gets the degun. He's running out of there. Tough position. He could lose his commander here. Okay, yellow and orange don't push the issue. That could have gone really, really badly though. I guess it's mainly yellow's units here. Yeah, luckily Ayin gets his commander out. And now, yeah, red's gonna get this entire rack. And since he's ground, like, that's gonna be a big deal. You know, like, this position is already 2v1. So the fact that red is you know, getting, you know, 2,000 metal, or, you know, 1,000 metal worth, excuse me, you know, it's getting a lot of extra metal is, you know, a big deal. And he's going to be able to afford a lot more units with that. Or T2 if he wants, I suppose. Yeah, kind of a lot of metal. Alright, so this is a lost position for your team, Ayin and Snake. Unfortunately. It's, you know, it's just a matter of they got plasma bots up here sooner. In higher numbers. You know, the metal definitely favors Ayin. Or did favor Ayin. Maybe not so much anymore. Actually, I take that back. These are a little bit slow to be gotten. And that probably had to do with early raiding and the fact that you're trying to micro your grunts that were out here. Which, I guess I missed it, but it looks like they didn't do too much damage. Unfortunately. Yeah. I mean, I know that there was the red commander up here earlier. I'm just not sure if those grunts ran into them. I totally missed it, and I apologize for that. But either way, you're missing a lot of mexes, and that's probably just because of an APM issue or forgetting about them. You know, just dealing with all the other shit that's going on. You know, all the frontline stuff, and then all the you know, doing the raiding at the same time. And then earlier you had that other, you know, that raid that attacked you. So I get it for sure, but this is just kind of a lot to not have at the moment. You know, 15 metal income compared to yellow was 18. Now, of course, yellow is also sharing it with, whoops, that was not the right thing. Yellow sharing it with orange. You know, so orange and yellow together have quite a few. And purple hasn't really gotten mexes either. You know, so this one probably should be purple's. These two, I'm not sure who should have them, but somebody should definitely have them. Anybody. I don't care who grabs them, just somebody should grab those. But yeah, it's kind of a lot of metal that you guys as a team are missing and have been missing, you know, compared to their team. So I think that's a big deal here. Let's see, 18, 18, 12, and 14. And in Ayin's team, you only have 15, 18, 18, and 10. You know, so basically the, what was I just saying? Yeah, so there's two 18s on both sides, and then one is 15, one is 14, and then 12 and 10. Yeah, so it's like, let's see, 1, 2, you know, so that's one difference. That's three difference altogether. And notice that, you know, a lot of these have to do with Snake just having a slightly better position here, and then them just not having these mexes yet, and then green basically able to grab. Actually, the biggest difference is green just having these upper mexes to work with. But yeah, that could be a you know, a pretty big thing to alter the how this game goes. Um, yeah, okay, radar's good. Just these mexes are so important for you, AN. Green's got a nice forward position up here. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing an Artie play up here. Let's see, okay, so Green is now producing some vehicles as well to help assist. Still getting shurikens, okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess they do have a little bit more metal income than, you know, than would normally. But yeah, usually you want to get rid of the lab, your first lab, if you're going to try to go for a second lab. You know, take the metal out of that, put it into units for this. Otherwise, you just have a lot of metal sitting around. But understandably, it's like you kind of want shurikens as well. I can get that from that position. You know, opening with air. You know, shurikens can be a big difference. But I guess from my angle, it's sort of like, well, if you're going to do that, get the shurikens first, eat the lab, and then get the vehicle lab. Or get the vehicle lab, produce some tanks, eat the air lab, and, you know, after you have some tanks, sell the air lab, get the vehicle, or sell the vehicle lab, get the air lab. Because yeah, it's just a lot of metal sitting around. Now, obviously, that takes a lot more micro. It takes a lot more efforts, and it takes time to do that. You know, so it's like you gotta have to plan around something like that a little bit. Not to mention the loss of energy is something to consider as well. Okay. So yeah, unfortunately for Snake, you are being pushed by 2 here. It looks like Ayin has sent some grunts to try to help out a little bit, but unfortunately, you've already taken some losses here, and it's just like you don't have enough to contest this. Again, especially after losing the metal from this wreck. So that's probably one of the biggest deciders already in this game so far. It's just, you know, not pushing it when you could have. You know, and again, just to note, there were some enemy units here that included, you know, things like the Whistlers and medium tanks and stuff. So I mean, there's just like a small group of scattered units around here to, you know, that would make this more annoying. But you know, Whistlers don't do a ton of damage. You know, you probably would have time to do that. And if the medium tanks came in to attack the commander, commander can pretty easily degun medium tanks. So yeah, I would like to maybe see a play like what Ayin did. Now what Ayin did was riskier than what you could have done, because Ayin didn't have units and he was up against a bunch of grunts and an enemy commander, and still got in there, degunned it, and got out of there. So very brave of you, Ayin, but a very necessary risk in my opinion, because that is a lot of metal, especially when you're 2v1. So yeah. Now of course green is helping you, so it's, you know, it's not like it's completely 2v1, but it's a rough spot at this point. You know, although green's helping you, it's not like a 1-to-1 ratio because they're helping you late, and that means there's a lot more potential from the other team to hold this position. Doing a reasonable job with these Janices, by the way, just like picking off stuff on the outskirts. A couple of constructors here. Yeah, it's good that you're coming back here with those units, because yeah, there's a lot of units to fight here. Do you have a radar yet over here? Where is the radar? I mean, you're putting one up right there. Just trying to figure out. Huh. I'm surprised that you can see all these dots here. Ew, okay. Green has a radar up here. Yeah, so that's a big deal. Big deal. Glad they have that, because if you didn't know how, you know, just knowing how many dots are out here is so important, and knowing where they are. See, other side, yellow pushing in here now. Nope, plasma bots on a hill are pretty good. Pretty good. It'll be hard to contest this. Rocket bots are somewhat reasonable here, especially if you're fighting uphill like that. Nice radar spot. This Dragon's Maw I do not like. Just the position of it. Let's see what the range looks like. 410. Thugs have 380. So yeah, thugs on the hill here, I would think, would be able to shoot at this without getting attacked back. You know, so this doesn't really have value. I don't think. Yeah, this is a lot of thugs. So this is really well done from yellow. This is definitely like a thug position for him. So now you're getting pushed back. You know, and that's not that huge a deal. Like, I would say if you lose the hill, you know, like, you need to kind of have overwhelming odds or overwhelming numbers to, like, take it back. Once it get, you know, once it's established with thugs on it, with, you know, plasma bots. You know, so I've seen a lot of, like, you know, Ayin, you're trying to, like, go in here and contest the hill, and then all of a sudden those units die, and leaving some of these wrecks here. You know, plus the towers that were built, like, you know, on the bottom side of the hill. You know, it just means a lot of metal being put into something that's not going to work. You know, so ideally I'd maybe set up the towers back here. You know, these are still in front of all your mexes, so like it's fine. It's not gonna like cost you anything. It's not gonna cost you like any mexes that you could potentially grab. And it's a better position to defend than trying to defend the very, you know, at the very bottom of the hill. It's just so easy for plasma bots to like outrange and do better against it. Yeah. Let's see, on the other side of things, we got, let's see, red's out here. What happened? Oh, okay, those units are still back here, I guess. So yeah, you've pulled your tanks back up to your snake. Green has some pounders out. I mean, pounders are a good addition even against medium tanks, but against whistlers, not so much. So I don't know if that was really the best choice here, because there are a lot of whistlers out. Shuriken's doing some work here too. Lots of metal there. Now, in this position, you know, there is a lot of wrecks here that could be, you know, you could try for, but this is far more pressing. You know, red's pushing this position. You and green definitely need to hold this, and hopefully deny this this wreck here. Yeah, given that red's not really pushing up here, you could have probably, well, maybe. I was gonna say you could maybe eat this yourself with your commander, but your commander is, you know, pretty low on health, so I'm not sure if that would work out. I guess just to cheat a little bit, we'll take a look at red's. Yeah, red has quite a bit more, so that's a no-go. So yeah, probably degun it. Oh, red deguns it. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, his whistlers were out of position, and it's gonna take too long to kill these tanks, so that does make sense. Oh, okay. That's unexpected. He had kind of a lot of health still, so I'm kind of surprised that he went down so quickly. But yeah, that's actually a lot of dead whistlers, and now all of a sudden you're in a better position than you were before. But yeah, it's not great. This radar sees, you know, what you're up against, which is awesome. But yeah, considering you guys don't have many units here anymore, it's kind of a tricky situation, especially with pink going up here now. Let's see, yellow's pushing the side here. Okay. Yeah, this isn't great to see. You know, all these units are damaged pretty significantly. And, you know, a damaged unit still does full damage back, so these are all still living units. You know, so the fact that I see damage that's spread out like this basically means that all these took bits of damage, when it would be more ideal for Ayin to, you know, try to pick off more of them. You know, instead of damaging them, because damaged units can just be repaired for free, and then, like, all of a sudden, you know, you didn't actually do anything because of that. So this is a great position for yellow, especially because this wreck's here. So yeah, all these guys being damaged is I wish I saw the actual engagement here, but it's kind of hard to fight plasma bots with rockets, I believe. I mean, yeah, rocket bots can dance around, but if you're low in numbers and stuff, like, it's like it gets to a point where it's kind of hard to not do this. You know, because ideally, you know, they have a line of units, you have a line of units. If theirs is plasma and yours are rockets, well, the rockets will, you know, if you try to target one unit at a time, let's say it's this guy, um, you know, all these rockets can shoot at this position, you know, and the rockets would, you know, keep going, I guess. We'll draw it out like that. My apologies for my bad drawing, but basically if you do that, all this bot has to do is move a little bit north or a little bit south and avoids all the rocket shots. You know, which of course is not ideal if you're trying to, you know, do any damage. Um, you know, so it's really hard to like, you know, set targets as rocket bots because you're going to miss a lot of them. Actually, it looks like Ian's doing a okay job. I'm trying to figure out. Okay. Yeah, so that's interesting. It looks like you just have it as like, or no, you have it as 1, 2, 3 type of thing. Yeah, so I believe that's probably how it is going to be. You'll attack one. That one does not move out of the way, but it could have. Yeah, so I just feel like it's really easy to dodge rocket shots because of that. Now in the same situation, you know, for the plasma bots, you know, the plasma bots shoot, you know, their shot is much faster. And they don't just keep going. So like, you know, if some of these were to attack, or actually just to make the same comparison, I guess, you know, if they all attack 1 point or 1 unit, say the unit's here, you know, the shot has a much more likely chance to connect on that set target because the shot moves so much faster. And even if it misses, it's sort of like it'll damage around it because of the AoE, whereas the rocket will keep going. You know, so the rocket has a much higher chance to miss, essentially, whereas the plasma bot has a chance to kind of hit the next guy nearby, in a way. Alright, so that pink raid is getting through a little bit. Let's see. Purple doing what they can. They finally grab this max. Ain's finally grabbing, or has these maxes back here. Bit of damage. A little bit, not too bad. Shuriken's doing a good job denying that. But yeah, this is getting kind of bad here, as Red's able to push up this side now. And bits of damage. I mean, if yellow doesn't repair these, you know, Ayin can potentially just pick them off. That's kind of like the thing that he needs to do in this situation. NuttyWombat just sitting up here chilling, getting some metal. Actually, quite a bit of metal on him right now with all that reclaim. Let's take a look at bases. It's actually been quite a while since I've done that. I'm trying to decide if this is necessary here. I'd say the second one probably not. The first one's probably fine. Unless you're trying to free up your construction bots. If you're trying to free them up, then yeah, maybe a second one. But otherwise, yeah, 2 is a bit much here probably because you already have all this build power and you can't, you know, your metal's already very low, so you don't really need more build power. Though I would say, yeah, I mean, you could potentially get rid of these. You know, for some extra metal since you're, you know, adding on a bunch of wind. I mean, your wind's a little bit low for that, so maybe not. I'm just trying to think of ways to get you some more metal here because, you know, you need some more units up here. Yeah, I mean, you did a reasonable job pushing these guys back, so it's okay. You know, green here really going hard on the economy. Bit of extra build power here for them as well. But either way, let's look at Snake. Yeah, I'd say this is enough to get rid of at least one of these. Now, obviously, you know, it's kind of nice having some solar for when the wind dips down, but you do have 2 storages, and you have plenty of wind, so like I feel like it's fine if you got rid of at least one of these, probably even 2 of these in this given situation. You know, in contrast, I don't think Ayin really has enough wind to really do that, so This metal's just lost for now. Let's look at orange a little bit too. Alright, so orange, yeah, your energy is quite low. Now, obviously, a lot of this metal is from Reclaim. And trying to add on some build power to use that metal. But unfortunately, your energy, your energy's not scaled to actually use it either. So yeah, if you know that you're going to be getting some Reclaim, you know, because it's just uncontested at the moment, you could potentially, you know, looking at your energy situation, kind of anticipate like, okay, you know, with all that extra metal, you know, looking at how you're playing, you're probably already deciding like, look, I'm gonna get some extra build power to use that metal, you know, but given that your wind and energy is not that high, you could potentially go for some of that first as well, or you know, build on a couple, or maybe even just one of these, and then just start, you know, trying to, whoops, that's not the right, trying to crank out some extra wind like around here so that the build tower can assist it. Now, if you really need metal, or if you really need energy now to spend your metal, you could put down some solars. You could potentially put down, well, yeah, I mean your energy at the moment, because wind is low, isn't great for an advanced solar, but that would be another option otherwise. Just to get your energy in check a little faster, basically, to help you spend some of that metal. Or you could, you know, give that metal to some of your teammates, which it looks like they're actually doing quite well on metal themselves. So yeah, everyone's just floating metal. Looks like yellow here has gone T2. Let's see, is anybody T2 over here? No. So yeah, you know, yellow just using that extra metal and that nice position that you guys have, you know, to go T2. So this is a very reasonable thing. Now it's kind of hard again because, you know, there's just not a ton of energy here for yellow either. So usually what I'd recommend, you know, if you're going to get that T2 lab, is to try to scale your economy up a little bit more first, and then to get the lab. Now, of course, wind is really low here, so like this should actually be probably closer to 4. You know, if the wind's higher. Yeah, it looks like yellow's even going to give out some constructors here as well. By the way, this is something I see a lot, is players will keep their T1 lab while they're getting T2. Now, in this case, you know, yellow doesn't need the metal, so it's fine. But, you know, it's something to get rid of when you need that metal. Looks like, yeah, red's already gotten a gift of constructor. Shared or energy, metal shared, so purple or pink. Yeah, so some nice sharing going on that team. Let's see if you guys have done anything on the blue team. A bit of energy share, more metal share to pink, share to red. Yeah, so not a ton of sharing, but just like little bits of metal here and there. Like yellow's actually doing a very, very good job here overall of just like, okay, I have extra metal, let's, you know, I can't really use it, let's give it to this player. This player kind of needs it because they're on the fronts and this is an important area, so let's give it to them. You know, so some good team dynamics here, I guess is my points. Let's see, and then yeah, sharing cons and stuff while still maintaining this frontal position. So very good overall by the red team here. Unfortunately, the red team didn't really take the baits of like, oh, there's an air player, you know, and like they didn't overbuild anti-air or anything like that. So, you know, just kind of put you guys back. Now, of course, the shurikens are useful. You know, don't get me wrong. The air constructors and stuff are useful. I just feel like in some way it'd be kind of nice to do like a bombing kind of thing. You know, even just like, I don't know, like 4 bombers or something. You know, on this map there isn't like a ton of metal. It's a little bit harder to control all the space with anti-air. So I wouldn't mind seeing something like that. Yeah, you need these right away. Let's see. Yeah, this is such a sizable force here. Unfortunately, green hasn't really been able to do too much to help. Yeah, a lot of that economy is going into wind and stuff. Yeah, it actually takes a long time for these converters to pay off at this wind. Um, it's probably like 4 minutes. It takes like 4 minutes for you know, the wind turbines to pay for themselves in terms of being converted to metal, something like that. So, I mean, it's nice for metal income like eventually, but it does set you back in terms of how many units and stuff you can afford early on. Um, you know, and then just having this lab is also sending them back instead of having more units, basically. Um, but I mean, you know, all that income is going to be nice once, you know, eventually, type of thing. But at this point, it's sort of like, you know, if you're going this heavy into T1 economy, you know, it's sort of like you might as well have just started the T2. You know, I mean, it's cheaper than going T2 to do this, but you know, overall, by the time that this actually gets um, becomes useful with all the converters and stuff, you know, T2 is basically, you know, a potential thing that's already done. You know, so to me, it's more important to fight for this position earlier than to go so heavy into economy, um, on T1 economy, I should say. Let's see, Snake. Lots of Janus still. But yeah, there's a lot of Lashers and Whistlers out here, so like you can't really do too much with them, unfortunately. Oof. Yeah, it's a good like combined arms composition. Well, it's not really combined arms; it's all vehicles, but you know, it's a lot of variety to handle all these different things. You know, Whistlers are going to be great in this situation because of the low range of the Janus, but then also because of the Shurikens from green, providing that anti-air support. NuttyWombat here, it looks like he's pushing out a little bit with these Rockos. That's a lot of rocket bots. The nice thing about rockets is, you know, you can poke at stuff and run back. You know, they're not the fastest unit, but you know, they can definitely get away from thugs if they're careful. But yeah, that T2 is probably going to help out a lot. Let's see, okay, so Ayin, you put this up quick enough that I didn't even see it. But yeah, apparently you went T2 as well. So in this position, you know, you guys got pushed off the hill pretty quickly. I feel like in this position it would have been a little bit better, just you know, because I feel like after you lost this position, you guys tried to like fight it a few times and just kept kind of losing units. And I feel like it would be a little bit better if you guys had sat back a little bit more, like you're doing now, and just hold this back position. Whoops, that's a weird triangle shape. If you were able to hold back here and get T2, like put up enough units to like hold off stuff, and then you know, try to greed for it. Maybe put up a jammer so that it becomes hard to know what you actually have. Kind of like what Purple did here, except Purple's still on T1 economy. Yeah, but I think that would put you in an okay position. Now, that does make you pushable. It's not exactly the safest thing to do. You know, but at least try to fight them on more even ground type of thing is I guess what I'm getting at. And then on this other position, you know, Snake and Green basically have to continuously make units here. Otherwise, they run the risk of just being overrun. But you know, it's kind of the same thing. It's sort of like you guys have lost this area. You could potentially just sit back here and chill. Just make enough to defend with, and then one of you could maybe go T2 instead, but I think it's a little bit harder for you guys in this position. Because that just kind of gives up a lot of mexes, you know, and just makes it so it's easy for the enemy team to kind of just chill with the mexes that they have. You know, if you set up too many defensive buildings, then all of a sudden you can't threaten attacking here. And then, you know, red and pink could see the defensive structures and say like, okay, you know, with all those defenses there, we have the territory, we could just go T2. We could go T2 off of that instead, knowing that you guys spent a lot on defenses. You know, so I guess I guess to sum up that point, is if you're going to lose a position, it's kind of fine, especially on this side, to lose this position because there's no mexes up here except for that 2.4. So not a huge deal. So instead of trying to assault the hill, stand back here, and prevents run-bys and try to fight more on even ground. Whereas fighting uphill is not going to go as well for you. And try to just play it out from there. And, usually in a lot of cases, it's sort of like, players will feel kind of good about having this hill, and they'll say like, okay, we don't really need to push it. Let's not push it. They'll just chill. And in a lot of cases that's good because there's all, mexes and stuff that gives them that's gives them the extra economy so that they don't really need to push it. But in this particular case, there isn't a lot of extra economy they're getting from it. So they would need to push down here if they, or I should say they don't need to push it, but they don't need to sit up here with a ton of units. They could instead get away with a faster tech or build up some extra. I guess they could build up some extra forces to push in, type of thing. But a lot of times I do see people kind of relaxed once they get up there. Unlike yellow. Yellow did push you earlier, so like yellow, pretty smart about it. But yeah, going back to this position on this side, a lot of times players will, once they win this area like they have, if you guys sit and chill, they might sit and chill. They might not push forward. But if you sit and chill sooner than when you have way less units, you potentially could have T2 faster. It's just a much harder thing to do because, again, you kind of want to go for all this metal. Unfortunately, in this position, you guys are already kind of lost because there's just so many more units here, and there's so few from you guys. I hope that makes sense. I'm also trying not to talk in circles, but I know I kind of do that, especially if I'm going back and forth between positions like this. So I apologize. It's probably kind of a mess, but I'm doing my best here, doing what I can. Oh man, the clumping. Nice Janus shots there. Yeah, I mean, I will say, given the situation, Snake, you're doing a pretty good job with the micro aspect of it. Ayin 2, I mean, you're trying to do what you can with the rocket bots and stuff poking up and whatnot here and there. But yeah, it's unfortunate that, because of the hill, it makes it so much harder to actually get anything done. But yeah, a lot of good engagements here from Snake. Probably some good value. Let's actually look at the stats really quick. I'm quite curious. So, let's see, damage efficiency, Snake. Actually, yours is low. Interesting. Let's see, high is from green, but that's probably mostly because of shurikens. Yeah, I mean, red has some nice damage. Okay, I guess it's not going as well as I thought it was, but that was a nice Janus shot, and I think I've seen a couple of other ones that worked out pretty well. It's like green is messing up some scouts here. I guess trying to push the, these whistlers away. Unfortunately, I don't think it's quite enough. Red has plenty of other units to come help that out. I mean, I guess that, it didn't work out the best, but you did get some, I suppose. It does free up Snake to like run around in the back here a little bit. So Red just trying to do all the things. Unfortunately, now there's Sheldon's out. Yeah, so at this point, it's like, these guys have got T2. I'm surprised Red doesn't have T2 being cranked out yet. Let's see, where is their T2 builder? I'm quite curious. I might be blind, but I'm not seeing it. Wait, what is this guy? Pincer. Okay, amphibious plane maybe? Where's that build? Oh, okay, the builder's up here. Does that mean... Right. Oh, you're getting these mexes. Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, I feel like here maybe a fusion would be useful, but maybe not. Kind of just depends on how the wind is doing. Let's see, Cheppy. Yeah, lots of wins now. T2 mexes are upgraded, no fusion. Yeah, so this is something, and actually I should look at all these other bases first too. See how you guys are doing it. Alright, so where is your constructor? Okay, so you're handing out guys as well. Your constructor is just chilling at the moment. Let's see. Green does not have it yet. Okay, Green's adding on to the lab. This feels like a mistake. Like he could just have more build power, but yeah, so you guys are just a little bit behind economically for that right now. Yeah, you pass one to Snake first. Yeah, I mean, I would argue maybe to buy a transport. Get him there faster. It's just so much time. Actually, yeah, he's got this transport here you could use to give you or something. Or he could do it himself, I guess, too. But yeah, Sheldons are out now, so this is kind of rough. They got it. They basically just got the T2 first, so we're getting pushed back a little bit. And Sheldons are out as well now. Oops. A couple of dead constructors there by accident. Yeah, I feel like so. While it's kind of an okay idea to like try to get some raiding done, I would say this is not a good time for it though, because like I was saying earlier in the video, anytime you raid with something, you're basically throwing those units away and trading them for economic damage. So you're trading these guys to potentially do some economic damage, and you're doing it against a force that is vastly superior in every way. So doing it at this time basically guarantees that these guys are going to die without getting anything done. So I don't know if I like that in this position. Now against like, you know, like lesser players, this could work still, but you know, Red and Pink here are doing a good job like holding the fronts and being annoying for you. Okay, yeah, this apparently is going to get you some value, maybe, because Pink's getting a little too close here with his ranged units. I should say his or hers. Obviously, I don't know gender. Yeah, a bit messy on Green's part. Trying to just run down stuff. I mean, it looks like it's working out. You got plus 15. It's otherwise pretty even. Yeah, although it was like a bit of a plus 15 in this area, there's also this to look at. Yeah, so now this is definitely sacrificial. It might get some value just because of the, you know, the tanks are so close to dead anyways for a lot of these red tanks. And it's pulling red way out of position. So, given that, I mean, these are pounders, so maybe not with these pounders, but I don't know. I guess ideally if you know, either of you guys had some units left in this area, you know, you could push this way. This raid, let's see. I mean, it looks like it's still doing okay. Huh. Yeah, overall just doing much better than I thought it would. I mean, a lot of that had to do with those tanks being damaged earlier. And so then these tanks can just pick them off easily and just keep going. So I suppose it works out for that reason. A little close there, but taking a little bit of AoE damage from it dying. Alright, so now they're starting to get, you know, losses, but at this point it's like you can't really run back either. Actually, you probably could have. I mean, obviously, you know, Green's not part of the crew I'm trying to review here, but yeah, something like this. I mean, I guess just try to keep track of the stuff that's chasing you. You know, because in this case, it's like he ran up here, is picking off a lot of those red tanks on the way, and the only thing left are whistlers. And, you know, it's like at that point, his tanks are trying to take some damage. And, you know, the units rallying out of these positions, you know, if you think about like where the units are coming out of in relation to where your raid is, you know, if you're getting deep enough in here, you know, the raiding party is going to get hit by all these different sides here. You know, and you know, by the time they actually get there, there should be plenty like around in the area to actually defend it from these labs. So there is actually a point where this raid could have turned around, but didn't, and so these units are just going to be lost. Now the initial part was okay because of the tanks. Otherwise, it would have been, you know, it's like kind of a gamble thing. But because the tanks were so low, he got some good value, and because of that, and it probably had to do with a bit of the positioning of his tanks compared to, you know, Red's tanks. Uh, but yeah, after taking out those tanks, there's actually a fine reason to just like go back this way, um, or maybe like circle around here and go back. Just because the rally of these players are all in the vicinity and going to be coming up here, you know, and it's going to be harder and harder to get value out of those units. So certain things, you know, certain parts of a raid, and that I guess I should clarify. Um, this is not something I'm seeing just in this particular case. It's something I see very often with these numbers, these you know, the numbers from the battle tracker. You know, oftentimes I see raids like they, you know, they start out okay. They'll maybe start with numbers or they're against like damaged units, I guess, in this case. And so those raids will have like a nice, good, positive value. And then as the raid takes damage, they just kind of get picked off without dealing any back. You know, so it's sort of like there's a usual time in every raid where it's like, um, you know, it has good value, but then the value diminishes as it keeps going. So there is a turnaround point where maybe it's better to just go back, you know, and of course in the moments and everything that's going to be really hard to figure out, but it's just something I'm noticing. Um, I mean, I guess still getting some value out of it. I don't know. I mean, if you're able to get this, I guess maybe I'm wrong in this case. Yeah, I mean, getting those mechs is kind of a big deal. I guess I expected red units to be coming up this way. But I suppose just as a team, they're handling it a little bit poorly. Or maybe just the fact that they're handling it with Sheldons, which means, you know, they can't catch up to it very easily. Either way, there is, you know, those amphibious tanks from red coming up here. So I kind of want to look at the economy overall right now. Let's see. Yeah, so wind is super low right now, just to keep that in mind. Yeah. Let's take a look at Wombat too. Yeah, so I feel like in most cases, I would say, you know, after you upgrade these 3 mexes, whenever you have a little bit of time, I would try to get a fusion. Unless you have like a giant wind farm like green does. You know, this would be fine for T2, especially if you have a couple of storages and stuff. But for Ayin here, you know, if you don't have that much wind, and you start upgrading all your T2 mexes, well, now all of a sudden a lot of that's well, not a lot of it, but like a sizable chunk of your energy income is going into your mexes to extract that metal. You know, -10 per extractor. When you only have this much wind, it's kind of a lot, and then also trying to get bots on T2 out of that is kind of a lot of energy as well. You know, so I would just suggest to you know, try to find the time to build a fusion before you start really cranking out your T2 lab here, and before you start getting these, sorry, that's not a mex, before you getting all these other mexes up here, because as it is, like your metal's just rising significantly for it because you don't have the energy. Now again, you know, wind is super low. If it was maxed out, you'd probably have like just enough, but anything in between, like it's not quite going to be enough. unfortunately. So I'd try to add that on. I mean, when you're in a bind like this and your energy's super low, um, and you see that your metal's going up like this, I would maybe slap down a couple of advanced solars. They're not terribly efficient in terms of metal, but if you need the energy now to actually use your metal, I would say it's okay. Now, obviously, with the wind being this low, like you don't want to just put down some advanced solars. You actually just want basic solars in this case. Um, but you don't really have a ton of mobile build power to like build a big farm of them. I'm just trying to think of ways to get your energy fixed up a bit here a little quicker, because this might turn into a big enough thing where now all of a sudden you don't have enough units for it. Sheldon's doing an okay job. Sheldon's are plasmas, by the way, so they do get a bit of a bonus for it being on top of the hill, so just be careful with that. Meanwhile, on the other side, looks like green is eating up a lot of this metal. Gee. Yeah, Snake, you're getting your T2 finished. You have a lot of wind built up here, so you're probably okay to get a few more mexes. And you do have those 2 storages too, so I'll make note of that because that's a big deal at this point for when the wind dips down. Oh. Okay, so this, I just noticed. I feel like you put this up a little too soon. Now, given your situation, it makes sense that you kind of just feel like you need stuff out here. This is basically vacant for anybody to take. And you're starting to upgrade to T2, so like in a way it makes sense to get a T2 lab, or it makes like it's intuitive to do that. But I'd say it's incorrect here. The main reason for that is, first of all, you're still upgrading your mexes, and while you're upgrading your mexes, you want all your metal and all your build power to go into those mexes. And that way you get that income sooner, and it'll be significantly sooner. If you're trying to slow build the mexes because you're also trying to build a lab, well, you just won't have the metal income to build the lab with very quickly. So I would rearrange this and try to just wait. Now, if you feel like you're in trouble or you feel like you really need units out, I would just, it's kind of fine to have T1 units out here right now. Obviously, Fiends do quite well against T1 stuff, but like, just to have some presence, I suppose. And the Fiends, like, they'll keep the Fiends off of your base for a while if you do that. It's just a big investment to go T2 before your mexes, so I'd prioritize that. But yeah, your energy's quite good with the wind max here, so and then you got those storages to back it up. Meanwhile, Ayin on maxed energy here, only at 800 income, so like it's not really enough still. I mean, you're able to spend your metal with it maxed, but yeah, this is kind of getting low. I think it's, like a storage would help you out a lot here. Okay, so you decide to go, okay, this seems like a lot at once. But yeah, I guess if you fast build these really quick, you get that extra income for the fusions. And then after the fusion, you can just eat the advanced solar, so that's fine. It looks like you finally ate those basic solars. Snake, you could definitely eat these basic solars, by the way. It's 300 metal, it doesn't, at this point it's not like a huge deal, but... Or I should say it's not a huge deal once you get those T2 maxes. But it's, it's something. 300 is 300, so... Just trying to get these maxes sooner, I think it's kind of a big deal. Got the last commander, by the way. Red stepping in doing some more raiding with these Jaguars. Green's doing another big push here with these medium tanks. I don't think this, well, yeah, he's in a good position, like ahead of these hounds, or I'm sorry, these fiends, so like it's probably okay. He probably will get some damage, because these fiends are not really going to catch up. Yeah, here's a lot of loss amount here just because it's Sheldon's against, T1 here. Meanwhile, Red's Jaguar does a little bit of damage here to Snake. but not a ton. But yeah, there's a big loss here from green. Yeah, T1, I mean, yeah, it makes sense to try to raid T1 at this point if you're going to raid, simply because, you know, you can have a lot of T1 units at this point, and, you know, some of them are faster than a lot of T2 units. But yeah, if you run into any resistance that is T2, then all of a sudden it's just a complete loss. You know, Red's raid was with T2 with Jaguars, but Jaguars are a bit faster than other things, so it kind of makes more sense. And then, you know, his small raid, you know, basically did more damage without too many losses. Overall, though, both raids were not efficient in terms of gains and losses. Yeah, green even recognizes the mistake there. Let's see, so you got your fusion out, one converter with it. Yeah, that makes sense there. Okay. Mammoth's coming out. A little bit of transporting to upgrade the mechs, I suppose. Is that a T2? I assume. Yeah, or yeah, that's a T2. So yeah, now it's Sheldon's on the hill. Good unit to have up here, as they are plasma, like I was saying. Pounders, interesting. I don't know if I've seen this all that often. Pounders against fiends like this. Looks good. Yeah, Pounders actually, dang, great unit against fiends. Very good value there. It's an interesting thing to note there. But yeah, I mean, considering that you guys like lost this position earlier, and you guys basically never had the hill over here, you're holding on, you know. It's not like you guys just instantly died, so like this is actually looking pretty good. Looks like a good game overall, I guess is what I'm getting at. Let's see, green going for a lot of rascals here. Kind of an interesting thing. I mean, green should have seen the Jaguars. I mean, now obviously, you know, these rascals can run around positions and stuff, and it's just kind of nice to have units out here to, you know, have vision and just have like a line of units to stop or see raids sooner. So it has some uses. Okay, that's a bit crazy. That's a big nope. That's not gonna do anything. If you're gonna do, well, I guess, you know, maybe it's for vision, but I was gonna say, like, doing something like that, usually you don't want to just send a line against a line, because your line is of weaker units going into a line of stronger units. So I was gonna say, like, if you're going to attack with like a bunch of small guys like that, I would concentrate them in one location and try to attack the points. Now, obviously this point has some fiends on it, so like I would nope out of that as well, but I guess that's just the, you know, that'd be more the ideal theoretical thing to do. Now if he was doing it for vision, that does make sense too. It's just, you went a little too close there. And I guess it's just like vision as in like scouting, getting the information on what's actually out here is useful. So yeah, so now you have, like, you know, on the radar you can see which unit is which, so that's useful still. Let's see. Yeah, and there's absorbing fire too, so it's good for that as well. I'm trying to think here, knowing, you know, now that you know what units are out here, what is the best unit composition? Yeah, I'd say what you're doing is reasonable here. I mean, you got the Mausers and you got the Bulls. You know, green has the scout support and the Pounders. I mean, the Pounders actually do pretty well against those fiends. So, meanwhile, on the other side, let's see, Ayin, you know, of course, having all those Sheldons. Let's see, yellow has a lot of Sheldons, and NuttyWombat with the Hounds. Yeah, I mean, it's all pretty reasonable stuff. I mean, I would say like an Arbor would help a lot here. I forget if they have more range. Let's see, 12, 10. Persecutor, 1390. Okay, so not more range than a Persecutor, but I don't know. You get a couple of them. They can move around, dodge shots maybe, or maybe you have a jammer to prevent shots. But either way, just something to assault the hill eventually. Now, of course, like the priority isn't to assault it, but to just stay alive, so I can get that as well. And at this point, you might as well maybe start eating your T2 or T1 stuff, I should say, because they're gonna have very little value at this point, especially the like slower ones like the thugs and rockets. You know, Sheldons will just pick them off, no big deal. Let's see, how are they getting this vision? Oh, the jammer just doesn't cover that area. Yeah, I don't like when this happens like that. I mean, oftentimes my jammers will like be on one side of the army and I'll have to like manually tell them to go to the other side. Kind of frustrating, kind of annoying. Go back to the view over there. Okay, so that covers all of them now. So that's good. You have a third one coming out here. Mammoth, good choice. You know, they can absorb a lot of Janus, or not Janus, Sheldon shots. But it's gonna be hard to actually like approach the hill with it. See, unfortunately, it's just it's a situation where it's like red and pink, you know, we're able to get this back. Yellow and orange never lost this position, so like, you know, overall in a better position overall for that as a team. Let's see, Bulls doing some work. Yeah, I'd say here, try not to press this too hard. I guess my whole thought is trying to get value out of stuff, especially when you you know, are behind in a way. You know, like every lost bull like this is just going to be metal for them if they're able to get up there. And I think it's going to be much harder for you guys to actually get up there to reclaim any of this. So with that in mind, and with just the idea of trying to keep your units alive so that you get more and more units, I would try to pull some of these damaged bulls back, get them repaired up. Very important when you're doing something like bulls, because the bulls are, you know, it's kind of like this big, expensive, beefy unit, and you know, if you just like every single time you lose one, it's kind of a big chunk of your army. And so anytime you can keep them alive longer, the better. So pulling them back, getting repaired up, very big deal. You know, it's kind of something. In fact, I learned this back in StarCraft 2, or I mean, even back in StarCraft 1, I learned this a little bit too, where it's sort of like when it comes to big clunky units, the more that you can pull them back and preserve them, the better. Because I mean, I guess just to make that StarCraft 2 comparison, it's like Protoss. Protoss has those big, like beefier units that you're trying to preserve for the long term, and you know, every unit that you lose is a bigger deal. And you know, so it's good to poke with those things, those big clunky units, but if you lose those units, you lost those units, and now your army's not growing properly because it's, you know, such a big chunk of that army. So pulling stuff back to preserve it, you know, in StarCraft 2 it would be letting the shields, you know, come back, and then engaging later. You know, it's going to get you more value than just straight up engaging and losing it and trading with them. So anytime you pull some big unit back to repair it, that's like, you know, I almost think of it as like, oh, that's another tank I have now. You know, I just saved myself 1,000 metal. I don't have to build a second bull. It's already there. I kept it alive. So yeah, just losing these up front here. You know, if you poke up here, you know, with bulls, I would say you can poke up here, and as you take damage from the Sheldons, it's totally fine just to retreat, get repaired. You know, it's kind of intuitive to kind of think to yourself like, well, you know, if I'm engaging the Sheldons, I don't want to get halfway and then turn around. That's just damage on me. You know, that's just me taking damage without dealing any damage. You know, which sounds awful, but you know, again, like things repair for free. So like, anytime you do that and don't get damage, you're also denying them damage. You know, and then you get repaired up, come back with more bulls, and maybe they, you know, they'll probably have more Sheldons then, but you know, gives you a better chance instead of just losing those bulls. On this particular case with green support, you know, it looks like you guys are actually doing something here, so it's working out okay. You know, these banishers are going to be a nice support here as well against, you know, a lot of that stuff. I think banishers get a bad rap because, you know, like, oh, their DPS is lower than Starlight's. Starlight's just better. But honestly, like, their attack angle is so much better. Is it? It's like either hard to see or it's not working. Okay, there it is. I guess I'll click on this one. Yeah, it's like really hard to see. So this tank is facing this way. You know, if this was a Starlight, the attack angle would be 180 degrees like this. You know, and the turret moves very slowly, and the body of the tank moves very slowly. So it's hard to actually get shots with Starlights unless they're like just facing the direction and sitting there stationary. But things like Banishers, their attack angle, you know, again, this is the forward position. This is where Starlight would be. Banisher actually has an attack angle like this. You know, so they can shoot in this entire ring. Their turret moves faster and their body moves faster, so they can actually like get the shots off pretty easily. And I think they attack a little bit faster. I could be wrong on that, but they're actually a reasonable unit considering they're so much more mobile than a Starlight. And then yeah, the splash damage from the shot itself, also very useful. I like Banishers a lot, if you can't tell. Looks like Yellow's getting in here with some ducks. NuttyWombat, you're doing what you can with those hounds up there. Let's see. Ducks get picked off because of you know, mostly because of the shurikens. Unfortunately, yeah, I think you're getting a little too aggressive here. I don't know if you noticed like all the shurikens there over here, but if you did, this is definitely a bit of an extension, because all these are just going to get picked off for free now. Yeah, as soon as you saw those shurikens, you should have tried to get out of there. Ayin has gotten pushed back here as well. Yeah, so I mean that was a nice play with the ducks. Unfortunately, didn't get a lot done. I can understand, you know, Nutty, you're trying to just support them, but like at the same time, this just gets thrown away. You know, and then Yellow is able to push up here and keep Ayin occupied with you know, Yellow here. See, other side, Banishers and Bulls are pushing in pretty hard. Suppose I haven't checked in with the economy in a minute. What are people doing with their economy? Alright, so it looks like Ayin, you've gotten an Aphis during all that. You actually have quite a few units out considering that, so kudos to you for doing that really well. Yeah, I mean, you even have like extra metal to spare. That might be just from reclaim or something. Either way, you kind of have a lot going for you right now, so that's good. I mean, I'm not going to bother looking at those guys here, but see, Snake, it looks like you're going for that fusion approach. Yeah, so I guess just to point out really quickly, you know, the differences between, you know, going for an Aphis or going for fusion and when to go for either. You know, basically, an Aphis is going to be much more efficient in terms of cost, like straight up resource cost, but they take a little while longer to build. Like a lot of their thing is like they have a high build cost for what they provide. Fusions are the opposite. So fusions are not as efficient in terms of resources, but they're fairly efficient in terms of build time. So if you want to get something up now, you know, fusions are better than an Aphis. But if you have the time, an Aphis is of course better, much better in fact. You know, so it's just something to consider when you're doing that stuff. Now Ayin, you know, has a lot of units out here, had time, but that means he doesn't have push potential because of all the money spent, you know, money and time spent into this. So he has less units coming out of here at the moment, or not at the moment, but like while that was going up, presumably. You know, meanwhile, you know, Snake, you're going for the fusions, and you're, you know, a bit further behind like already. With those fusions, but you know, granted, this is a situation where you kind of need to fight for all this a lot more than Ayin has needed to. But yeah, definitely a situation where, you know, you guys are pushing this back, and I feel like it's a good idea to just go for a fusion here in your situation. So, you know, I guess just to point out that that's all reasonable. Meanwhile, over here for NuttyWombats, let's see. Okay, third fusion. I don't know how I didn't see this right away. Actually, fourth fusion. So your economy is actually in a rather good spot here. Let's see. I guess just to look at the numbers precisely. You know, Ayin with that fusion is doing pretty well. Snake a little bit behind, but again, if you're, you know, considering what you're up against, like you're doing better than these guys. Looks like Pink did greed for an Aphis, but unfortunately sinking a lot of that into this T3 lab. Definitely not enough time to get that right now. And just not enough converters for this Aphis, unfortunately. So you guys have a lot of push potential here. Red... Wow, Red actually really behind on economy, so yeah. They try to push it so hard. Yeah, so this is actually not a good dynamic between these two. I mean, A, because, you know, obviously the converters are not here, and B, trying to get the T3 lab in a situation where you can't really afford it. You don't really have the time to build it. And then Red being just so far behind on economy because Pink is doing this stuff. Red just trying to hold on. So you guys actually have a great potential to push here. But yeah, in terms of up here, Ayin has the fusion. Only 2 converters, oh actually 3 converters for now. Yeah, okay, so 3 is actually okay here. In that situation. But meanwhile, your opponents, let's see. Yeah, I mean, yellow here pretty far behind. Decided to go air instead. So air is actually a reasonable thing to do here because at this point it's like you can mass up like plenty of bombers to actually do something pretty significant with it, if that's your choice. You know, and then they're also in a frontal position, so like that's a good follow-up to what they're doing up there. In terms of you, NuttyWombats, yeah, I'd say like, you know, it's all reasonable stuff, just increasing your economy, building units up, getting some snipers out and stuff like that. All pretty reasonable stuff. Let's see. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I suppose I kind of need to look at purple here. Yeah, purple's a little bit behind. I mean, part of it is just like not having these mexes for you guys. So this side's looking weak for sure, but you know, after this Aphis, if Ayin goes straight into making a lot of units for a little bit, I feel like you guys could be okay for a moment. But this is kind of a lot of mammoths to deal with. And yeah, fat boys are not exactly the thing you want. You want snipers here, not fat boys. You know, fat boys have a big AoE attack. You know, the like single target or the single like DPS on like one unit is not very high, but the AoE like adds a lot of damage. But AoE is not what you want against things like mammoths. You want like good strong single fire damage like the sniper or sharpshooter. So yeah, these just get picked off unfortunately. Scorpion's doing some work too. Scorpions and Pitbulls here, I guess. A lot of sniper support. Yeah, so this is kind of rough here now, because there's enough snipers out here. You know, if they have some support, like right now they have the mammoth support. You know, there's nothing that either of you guys can do, because you know you're working off of Sheldon's, and you know you finally have a mammoth out here. You know, purple's already in a lot of trouble, doesn't have a lot out here. The fat boys are not going to help, and so even if you take this out, you know, as long as you know, yellow and orange have some support with these snipers, the snipers can actually just kill everything. You know, I don't know if this is a mistake of just not seeing the snipers until it's too late, or just not knowing what to do about it. I would say if you see snipers like that starting to be masked up, especially if they're with Sheldons like this, a reasonable thing to go towards would be for spam, like doing grunts. You know, having spam, having actually, well, Sheldons can hit air, so I don't know. Maybe not that. I was gonna say you could like do some like weird play where you get like, you know, you could like either build your own air lab or get transport ports from green, and just like actually I think you would need a T2 transport, don't you? I was gonna say the transport sumos. I don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about. It's like, well, if your if your opponent doesn't have anti-air or anything, you could just drop some sumos on them or something, or bombs, or I don't know. It's just like some crazy play like that. But either way, you guys need to get rid of these so bad, because that'll prevent these sharpshooters from really doing too much. Doing what you can with these Sheldons. It's taking a minute though. These are mammoths after all. You got some nice cover with this rock here, or this rock here I should say. These sharpshooters are on the front now. Okay, well, I think that was one of the fat boys that got, or maybe it was a Sheldon that got that group of Sheldons, that group of yellow shell, or a group of snipers I should say. But yeah, you're getting a little too close there, Nutty, with your snipers. Nice little push here. You guys need to kind of push on this side a little bit harder, I think. This is something that I'm always torn with. So you guys have a nice combined like group here. You know, like there's the tigers for that frontal, like more assaulty, like raiding kind of group. Then you have some Mausers here, or just like say group A and B. You know, I guess it doesn't really matter what units they are, but you know, you guys are winning the fight up here, right? And it's sort of like, okay, you know, in this position, since this side's not doing so well, if you're green, do you stay here and support this, or do you go up here to make it annoying for them over on this side? You know, and potentially take out orange's base, and then all of a sudden, you know, after this push dies, orange is in ruins. You know, that seems like a good call, but then it's like, well, what about this position? You know, which is more important to do? You know, and I think it really comes down to like orange and what kind of position and shape that they're in. You know, if orange sees this, like it looks like NuttyWombat has seen this, so they're putting some snipers in the position. Well, then these are just kind of dead. You know, and it sucks. Like you're just gonna lose all that for nothing. You know, so do you try for something like that, or do you try to support this more? I feel like in this particular case, you know, with me being able to see like every little, you know, every unit and seeing what the opponent has and everything, I would say here is going to be better. But given like, you know, only so much view, well, I guess you do know that these are bulls and stuff. I would probably stay here then. But yeah, it's sort of like you guys could potentially push this, or maybe this is a big enough unit group to like keep these units at bay and not push it, and you feel like your combined unit group is not enough to push this, then it kind of like, you know, it makes sense to want to go this way. But then it's like, well, what about orange? What do they have? Do they have something to contest this easily or not? You know, and as it is, it's snipers, so like they kind of do, especially with this tick support. See how this goes. Some good numbers here for you, Wombat. Okay, so I mean, green can do some damage here if he's able to get these, you know. Oh, nope, the shurikens. Oh, he does get it. Okay, he at least gets the converters. Yeah. I mean, I suppose he probably didn't know about the shurikens either. Yellow kind of coming in clutch here with the save. So yeah, I mean, even though it didn't do anything, I mean, obviously this number highly favors orange here, as orange is the one I have selected. Um, but yeah, it at least gets orange and yellow off of the, off of Ayin. So all these units had to pull back. Um, well, I mean, there's really not that many to pull back at this point, and it was probably good that they pulled back there anyways. Um, but yeah, generally speaking, like a side attack like this will pull units back. Um, but then that also means that there's less potential to keep this area. And so now this gets a little rough. So, just a trade-off thing to consider. And unfortunately, not a lot of stuff going on either side. Very back and forth at this point. Yeah, not a lot of good stuff for blue team, I should say, right now. They just lost all that on both sides. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm always curious at this point too, like economically, how everyone's doing. So looking at the numbers on the side, and actually I could look at the numbers up here. Just know that the bars up here do not display properly. So don't look at that, but let's see, blue team slightly ahead as it is. I mean, that might have to do with the converters not being paired with this at Aphis, and it might have to do with orange losing some converters here. Yeah, I mean, economically they're not in a bad spot. It's just a matter of like, I feel like losing or throwing away some of those units in some cases. Trying to make too much happen. Yeah, I guess just to put it a little bit differently, and notice that, pink has these T3s out now. What was I going to say? So in this position for both teams, it's like you guys are fairly even in terms of economy. Fairly even. The biggest difference in how this has been going is just the units out. The actual battles. So like, yellow and orange having so much, and then like, piling up so many units, and then deciding, okay, let's push. And then, Ayin able to actually, push both you guys off of the area, as well as green coming up here to, be a nuisance. But either way, green coming up here, gives you guys a lot of metal on the bottom here on, for red team, and put this position into a weird spot. So the momentum is definitely on red team right now, but otherwise pretty even, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. And that's generally, what tends to happen with a lot of games. Is, you have, one side starts doing rather well, has units like, in good positions, like red team had these two positions. And then eventually, they look at that and say like, hey, let's either greed for tech or push forward. And, if they push forward, then they risk losing those units and providing a lot of metal to the enemy team, or they tech up, which in my opinion is oftentimes the better choice in a lot of situations. After you have that forward position, you tech up and then you lose ground because of the time and metal spent on teching up. So then it turns into a situation where instead of red controlling this area, the red team, gets pushed back to here. And then green team techs up, and then red team pushes them back to here. So it becomes this back and forth of like, one then the other, and then, it just swaps like that. And so like at this point, it's kind of has a little bit more to do with like the economy of it. Where people, how many Aphises are out there, how many fusions are out there. But overall, the teams are pretty even here. So like the game definitely can keep going on. But the momentum is on red team right now because they just got all that metal and stuff from the raids. So I feel like summing all that up and putting it all together, to me feels like at this point in the game, because there isn't going to be another bump like T2. The next bump is going to be having T2, like a stronger T2 economy, but that's, more or less gets added on slowly after the first couple of Aphis, right? So like, you know, you can start cranking out a bunch of units and whatnot. Um, you know, and if that's even, if you if both teams are doing that at a like similar rates, well, then it kind of goes down to whoever has better unit control and whoever has the current momentum. And the current momentum is definitely favoring, um, you know, the red team here. You know, so it's going to be hard for blue team to get back into this at this point. Airplay is one of the ways that they could do it, but yellow has already planned for that with fighters. You know, so there's already that. There's you know, of course, like amphibious play or you know other sneaky plays like that. Um, oh, okay. So you guys just resign here. I mean, I feel like you could have played this out a bit, but if I had to, you know, give a team a higher percent chance of winning, I would definitely give it to the red team. Um, you know, but you guys had a really nice run here, and you know, these Shivas, you know, there's enough of them out here that that's going to be a bit of a problem with that T3. Um, Unfortunately, you guys don't have. Yeah, I mean, you actually have like a similar. You actually have slightly better economy, Snake, with those fusions. Um, you know, and so I guess I'm looking at this like, okay, you know, would it have been better, uh, you know, to greed for an Aphis in your position? And I feel like not so much. You know, it would have been better for green to greed for an Aphis in that position. Maybe not so much. Um, I guess the last thing that you guys could have possibly done is just been more careful with your pushes up here, especially green because he had the bulls. Um, and I feel like even though this was still being threatened, or this was being threatening, you know, pushing into Ayin was handling it okay. Purple might have taken some damage, but purple's already kind of in a rough spot as it is, and building the not really the right unit for the job at the moment. Um, you know, so if purple takes some damage, it's not like the hugest loss. And I feel like maybe if you guys pushed up here together, it would have been better. Um, Now, obviously, you guys don't know this, but Red's economy is not in good shape. If you guys were a little bit more careful and slow with this approach as a team, as the two of you, green and teal here, I think it would have costed purple a lot, or pink here a lot more. Um, Pink would have gotten a lot more damage if it was like a slow push with banishers and bulls and the Mausers and all that. Um, so I feel like that's the last ditch effort that made a difference in how this went in the end here. Um, so I'm thinking for Ayin, I mean Ayin, I feel like you know, given that you know Purple's not exactly the strongest player, you know, you two holding this, you know, is enough. You know, you can't really expect to push both these players because they're much stronger players than you two combined, and you know had that frontal position pretty well. So a lot of this for you guys just has more to do with that early game and getting those mexes. Um, you know, just the timing of the thugs coming out from yellow and orange were um, much better than what AN and Hammerhead were able to do here on this side. You know, so that's how that all went. And then from there, it's like, you know, they just hold it, and there's really not too much that AN and company can do, except for maybe greed a little bit harder, and that's kind of what AN decided to do. Um, so this to me is a reasonable response. Um, but you kind of need to greed extra hard. Like you can assume that like they're probably greeding, and so you need to greed even more. Which again, like looking at both sides, like you actually are doing. So like, you know, although this looks bad for you guys being pushed all the way back here, it's actually not that bad. It's totally fine. Like, you know, you have 91 income. Let's see, yellow has 92, orange has 81, and purple is gonna only have 76. So like, yeah, it's a little bit better for them, but like, you know, you got the Aphis up. So I mean, and you're going for a second Aphis here, so you're about to get a bunch more income from that Aphis. Whereas yellow doesn't even have an Aphis. The only difference, you know, yellow has that much metal because of all the extra mexes that they have, whereas you've been unable to take these back. So getting these back, you know, even if they die, would be a big deal, and especially since you still have a bot lab, or maybe you built this later. I'm not 100% sure if you got rid of your lab or not, but yeah, at some point rebuilding the lab, getting some res bots out, because having these mexes back again is kind of a big deal. To get that much more ahead. You know, if you think about it, that's what, 30, 70, it's like eight mech or 8 metal per, right? But it's okay, 7.3. My math definitely not so good right now. But yeah, 7.3 times 2, that's like 15 metal per second. You know, that would have been a big deal considering you're already like ahead on the Aphis game. So just having those two back would have been a big deal. And you know, if you're able to control more of this, obviously, you know, that's even better. But there's only so much you can do. So if you had resurrected these two mexes, you know, finished this Aphis, gotten the converters, and then just completely stopped Aphis production for a moment and cranked units, you'd have a ton of units. Or you can go T3 or something like that. But either way, like having that push potential, um, and it's kind of hard with Cortex bots, T2 bots in this position because there's only so much you can do. You know, you don't have a unit like a sniper. So the sniper wars or games or that extra range just automatically goes to them. Now you do have the mammoth, which is great, but it just takes so long to actually push a position, and it's really not great against snipers. So it's not really a great choice. Arbiters might be able to help there a little bit, just being annoying in the same way that like T1 artillery is annoying, like with just it raining down stuff. So I wouldn't mind seeing like a mammoth arbiter with some Sheldons. I don't know, just like a mix of stuff to like be annoying with. Yeah, I mean that kind of mix probably could slow push this position, especially paired with like jammers and stuff. Also note there is a lot of like there's not much anti-air here. I mean, obviously there's the fighters and stuff, but like I don't know, there's ways to get around it. Yeah, I mean, if you saw the fighters, obviously you wouldn't want to do an airplay, but I guess I'm just thinking like otherwise there's not much. So like maybe there's some like goofy play where you, um, send some. I mean, obviously you wouldn't be going fighter here primarily, but I guess just like do something goofy like sending some fighters in this way, getting the yellow fighters to engage with those, and then sending bombers in this way. I don't know. That probably wouldn't work because of the long travel time for the bombers, but I'm just trying to think of ways for you to potentially do something. But either way, like I was saying, just not getting more Aphis after this and just going heavy into units. And if for some reason yellow was already on parity with that, then the game's already lost anyway. So like, and it's just gonna be over. So to me, your best bet is to go for units in that situation. Yeah, I mean, it's really not that much here. It's just the snipers right now. Let's see. Let's talk about Snake. All right, so Snake, in your position, you don't have the Aphis. And again, like I think that was a reasonable thing because you guys were just trying to push. So like, again, pushing here I think would have been better and easier and less of a waste than pushing up here. Because Ayin didn't really need that distraction play. And I don't know. I feel like at this level, even you can assume that people are going to react to it. NuttyWombat did a great job reacting to it, having those snipers out here and whatnot to take those out. But I suppose, like, let's say you guys get up to this position and you try to slow push, but there's just like maybe some static defenses or something stationed around. You can't really push this position. And again, like pushing up here with just a few units is not going to do much. So in that kind of position, like, yeah, you could go for an Aphis. Especially once you get like a third reactor here, you could put down an Aphis and then like start eating these reactors to like get it really, really fast. Now, of course, you'd want like a lot of consorts to go with it to build it really fastly if you're going to do that kind of way. Um, but otherwise, I mean, pretty good game from you overall. I don't really think that there's that much you could do about your situation down here. Because yeah, primarily red has gone for more units and less economy, and pink has gone for some economy, but now it's built up, and now you got these Shivas and stuff coming out. I mean, I suppose one of the better things that you could do here is start spam. Your economy's okay; it's not like stellar or anything like that. But if you started to do spam, Shivas are going to have a harder time. Fiends obviously deal with spam really well, but they have to get in your face to deal with it. So like, you guys can slow push Mausers and stuff. Like, have your bulls protect the Mausers, have a line of Mausers, and your bulls here, and then the spam trickling through, and then things like fiends, like they'll try to get, if they get too close, then the Mausers just shoot at them. So like, but yeah, having jammers with that, the spam would help with if they had a jammer, but they don't. So I mean, if you just had a jammer with your stuff, you could actually contest some of this a lot easier. Let's see, is there any Junos out? I wonder. I wonder. I don't see any, at least not for that team. Any Juno gamers? Okay, Green's got a Juno, so good on him for having a Juno. But yeah, it just makes me think that there is some good jamming play that perhaps you could have done down here at Snake. Orange overall, Wombat, nice game from you. You did a good job defending this spot here. You did an excellent job with the hill. You pushed your snipers a little too close when you did move in there, but like, shit happens. Pretty good game from you, I think, overall. I'm trying to think of some of the earlier stuff, but I'm actually forgetting, so I apologize for that. I've primarily tried to focus more on Snake and Ayin, since they're, I can try to talk about that team a little bit more, and just find little things that I see from NuttyWombat. So I haven't really paid that much attention, but hopefully I haven't missed too much on your end. Yeah, overall you guys are doing quite well. So I was, I try to root for the underdog. Anyways, this has been a very long video, very long video, and I hope I didn't ramble on too much, and I hope I actually like said something useful at some point. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed my ramblings. I'll see you guys around. Thanks for watching.